All right. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Lexi freaking Johnson, thank you for being here. So excited for this. Coming from St. Louis to join us.
I'm actually on Kansas City, so
right,
opposite side. Still in Missouri, but yes.
Coming from
Midwest.
Missouri, hosting some events in Austin this weekend and decided to join us. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
This is a beautiful space.
Yeah, thank you. I want to start off, I pulled this picture.
Okay.
So this was, I believe, back in 2020.
Nervous. Yeah, yeah, that was in the
for the
OG
audience here,
dungeon.
Lexi, if you look up Lexi now, great content, great workouts, like you have a whole setup now, but it wasn't always that way.
No.
So I want to dive in. Let's go back to a few years ago. You were working as a dental hygienist.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, the world shut down. I have some dumbbells at home. I'm going to start posting workouts. And then now, today, like last year, you were the first Phorm athlete of the year, just crushing it, inspiring so many people. So let's go back to 4 years ago. What was life like? What inspired you to start your fitness journey and creation, I would say?
Yeah, so in 2020, I was working as a dental hygienist, and previously I had actually been a substitute teacher. So I graduated with a health science and psychology degree, and that's, we always say it's a degree to get another degree.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going on to a chiropractic or physical therapy or something like that. But I got married 2 weeks out of college, so I was so excited to get married, and brought really nothing into that relationship financially but debt. And I just felt like such a drain on Brett, and I hated that feeling just of not contributing. So I decided to substitute teach for a year. I'm from a teeny tiny town, so I'm in the Kansas City area now, but I'm from a really small rural area in Missouri. My hometown has 400 people. So I substituted at this really big high school, and I'm 21 years old, and these kids like do not take me seriously at all. I was miserable. So I'm Googling, okay, what can I go to school for to like in an expedited program just to be able to like have a stable job. So I landed on dental hygiene. Believe it or not, like I don't have any passion to scrape teeth, but I could get in and out relatively quickly and start making an income, start chipping away. So I was a dental hygienist, and I just kind of felt like that was it was gonna be fine. I was gonna be able to pay off my debts. I was gonna be able to contribute to, our family, and then I could find something fulfilling or, some sort of passion outside of the 9 to 5. And I just kind of resolved that would be my life. The people around me and like how I grew up, everyone had a job that they didn't love, but it paid the bills. You had to have a job. So when the pandemic hit, my gym shut down. It just never opened back up. Like they lost their business. And like everyone in the world, we're working out from home. Dental hygiene was considered essential. So I was still commuting an hour to work and working there. And to put it into perspective, because like your recap makes it seem so flawless and quick, but I had these like Facebook Marketplace dumbbells. The basement is bare bones, all concrete, and I was terrified to like let anyone know that I really gave a shit, and that I thought that I could be resourceful. So I would post something on my story, like delete it in less than an hour, because I'd be like, no one can see that. No one can know that I care. And eventually it just like, I left them up a little bit longer. Still nothing static, because again, that was like a permanent example. And I always say like the worst thing in my mind back then was getting floated around like a high school group chat, getting made fun of and calling cringy. And I was not about to subject myself to that judgment. So I just posted like very, very infrequently. And it was always the like, this is what I'm doing. If you want to do it, you can, but like no pressure.
Yeah.
Like no commitment. I didn't want to be forceful. And eventually I started getting a little bit of feedback where people were like, hey, I did that workout you posted. Thank God. Because like I've been driving myself crazy. I'm homeschooling my kids. I'm working from home. Like this sucks. And that there's like little nuggets of belief from other people kind of started fueling me. And I was like, well, I mean, someone's got to do it. Someone's going to do this thing. So it might as well be me. So I started filming full length workouts, like push play. And it's like, you're working out alongside me, which it gave an opportunity for people to get their foot in the door with exercise that wouldn't normally. Like it's a pretty vulnerable thing to get in front of to go to a beautiful gym like this where it seems like everyone knows what they're doing and you be the outsider. That's a really vulnerable spot. And also working with, women and parents in general, they don't have a lot of time to commit to go into a gym, or, they can't dedicate childcare during that time. So this I don't know if you've ever read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. This felt like my window. So I record 28-minute workouts. You press play. I want it to feel like you're working out with a friend. And we did that throughout COVID. I really thought it was just going to be a COVID project. And 4.5 years later, I record 6 workouts every single week still. I went full time about a year in. So I balanced both. And now I have a team of 5, and we're in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so inspiring, just especially because you're very open of saying, I wasn't comfortable doing this.
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
It's such a transition, because now I am very authentic, and like I will, post the good, the bad, the ugly, but I was terrified, and I just thought that if I would put myself in that position, I was just immediately subjecting myself to hate, which you are to an extent.
Yeah.
But it's going to, like, the benefit far outweighs the judgment you're going to get. And the people that you want to see it, and the people that you want to seek for advice, they're never going to be the ones that are talking shit. And I just had to get that through my head.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people in the fitness space are kind of doing the same thing. Like, people are posting workouts, they're showing what they're doing. You made it very unique from day one. These are going to be 28 minutes. I'm going to be talking to you the entire time, like acting like we're working out as friends. Even if you don't know, or I don't know who you are, or you're in a different state, like, let's spend this moment together and build a relationship online. What ideas came about you that, like, this is what's going to make me unique and separate myself from other people in the fitness industry?
I would love to say that I started with that in mind, of like a separator from a business strategy side, but I don't think that I had that much foresight. I think that I was, like everyone else, kind of isolated in COVID, and my social environment was much smaller. So I was like, this is an online community. This is a way that I can interact with people that I don't live in my house, because that's the only people we're talking to. And I felt like that was received so well, because everyone was driving themselves crazy, and they're at each other's throats because you were only talking to the people that live under the same roof. So more than anything, you just needed 30 minutes to escape, and 30 minutes just to feel like the world was not crumbling, or your future was not uncertain, that you could just press play and you don't have to think about it. You don't have to call the shots. Like, I'll take care of it. Just follow along with me.
Yeah. Did you feel any resistance or like some barriers to go over of the consistency behind it? Because a lot of people, when they think about working out, they're like, I need to show up myself, but they don't think about Lexi showing up and live streamer taking that video. So you're doing that every single day to inspire these people, to lead these people. Were you ever like, I want to take a day off, or maybe this isn't going to work? What was that feeling like?
Yeah. Excuse me. I feel that so much. And I do think that what has been so well received by a lot of people, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. And I'm a big believer that, if everyone loves you, then you're probably just diluting yourself to a point where you're just palatable for everyone. I don't think that's anything special. So I am aware that, like, my approach and the way that I do things is not going to be for everyone, but it's going to be for the people that need me. And for that, we'll stay true. So because I am navigating this human experience right alongside you, and I don't have it all figured out, and I'm recording these workouts in a weekly basis, same as you're doing them, I'm going to let you know if I'm not feeling it. I'm going to let you know when I didn't want to get up, and, when I wanted to snooze, because chances are good there's going to be someone on the other side of that screen that also felt that way. And I'm sure that it would be much more motivating at times for someone to get in front of the screen and say, like, I sprung out of bed every single day and I want to do this so bad. And, I don't have an ache or a pain or, anything going on outside of this gym, but that's just not the case. And I think that people go into fitness, especially my demographics, lifestyle, they're, the moms and dads that just want to be the healthiest for the people that need them. And they go into fitness and they often see these people, these personalities or whatever on social media, and they have that curated vision of them in their head where they do live that perfect life that is without struggle, or they never lack motivation or anything. And if you continue to feed into that as someone with a platform, then you're feeding that narrative, and they're just creating separation between the people that you want to reach and this image of yourself. So I call it like my digital diary. They get a front row seat.
Yeah.
And I also think that it cultivates that culture, that community where they are invested in me as a person. The good, the bad, the ugly, we're going to talk about it, because I want them to feel like they're working out with a friend. And I think that if they were working out with a friend and they had that commitment with them, there would be times when you didn't want to do it, but you would show up because you feel like someone else is counting on you.
Yep.
And it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but I think that overall it's been well received. That, and I say that like I'm a downer all the time. There's just some days where I'm like, guys, this sucks. This is not what I want to do. And because they feel that way, I think that it makes me a lot more relatable, and they know that I'm a human.
Yeah, that's so good, especially the timing of society where everybody's locked in their homes. being able to have a friend online or someone you look up to online is so powerful, because you go to a gym, you can make friends or draw inspiration from someone because you're like, oh, I want to look like that person. I want to move like them. I want the life they have. But COVID, like, gyms were shut down.
Yeah.
Grocery stores, it was like super limited. You couldn't do much. So to be able to not only follow something online, but to connect with someone is super powerful. I think you just, great timing of that is like, I'm not only going to show what I'm doing, but provide value and build that audience too.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, like I said, the book Outliers, I had finished that shortly before. And for anyone that hasn't read it before, it analyzes like really successful groups or people. So like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, the Beatles, they all, yes, they had this extreme talent and skill that they cultivated, but there was like a moment in time that was open, and then they capitalized on it.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was my window.
100%. One thing I want to dive into is you transitioning to this being your full-time career. And I think a lot of people, they have a passion out there that they're like, I would love to do this, but I can't leave the 9 to 5. I can't get out of my comfort zone to pursue this passion. So in a little bit less than a year, you went fully Lexi J Wellness, like, let's dive in. And now it's exploding from there. Was there a moment in time that first year where you're like, hey, I can actually do this full time? Can you talk us through that story?
Yeah, so like I said, I had commuted an hour to and from work. I would get up at like 4, record a workout, go to my 9 to 5, and then in between patients, I was like corresponding with clients. I would take calls over the lunch hour and then go home, do the same thing, wake up. And I just remember being like, I'm just leaving so much on the table, scraping teeth and polishing teeth and things like this. And I do remember eventually it got to the point where I felt like it was a downside, where I was just not utilizing my time well enough. And thank God, thank God my husband was so supportive of that. Brett is traditionally like very, stable security. He wants something predictable, but he was unwavering in the support. And I think that it's just because I was so unfulfilled in what I was doing before that he saw that spark, and he, backed it 100%. And I remember thinking that I naively thought I would have all this time. I'm like, well, I spend 9 to 5 doing this. So then now I'm just going to like be twiddling my thumbs. I'll do whatever I want. And if you have a mindset and you're ambitious, you're going to find things to fill that time. So that was naive. But I also felt like I counted down the days until like I put my 2 weeks notice in, counted down the days. And I was like, that day is going to be the most relieving day of my life. It's going to feel like all this weight is off my shoulders. I get up at 4 a.m., I record my workout, and I just like had a panic attack. And it was that moment of fear and doubt of, okay, is this not going to work? Am I going to, crawl back with my tail between my legs in a month or so because I couldn't do it? And that would be so embarrassing. And just that fear that I was not going to make it, and Lexi J Wellness would be a failure, that I would have to go back and tell everyone like, actually, I'm back at it. I'm the dental hygienist again. So it was a conversation where I felt like my time could be used better, but it was not something that I felt 100% in. There was a lot of fear with it.
Yeah. You mentioned Brett a few times, and having that support from your husband is crucial. I want to touch on that, like having the support from someone outside of just yourself, because it's one thing to believe in yourself, but having someone, whether it's a spouse, a family member, a friend, to say like, hey, you can actually do this, and encourage you to take that next step. What role has that played in your life?
Brett is the unsung hero of Lexi J Wellness, and the people that are like very deep into our community know that, because he's working behind the scenes so much. So it's not just his belief in me, but he also believes in like the culture and the community that we've cultivated, and he has a lot to thank to that, because he's seen every stress and every worry, celebration behind the scenes, and he's the one that gets it first. And it was something that there have been several times where I've had doubts and I've had hesitations, and without failure, he's always reinforced that belief in me. And yeah, it's invaluable.
Yeah, I love that. It's so powerful. Going to Lexi J Wellness now, you host a lot of events, and you mentioned before this year was a very event heavy, doing events all over the country, really. So this weekend you're in Austin because you're hosting 2 events. So tonight is a ruck, and then tomorrow a group workout. And you have over 100 people showing up for you, signed up for you, saying like, hey, I want to be around Lexi. All week and week before, you were posting people from different states coming in to work out. It's crazy to see, hey, I went from a basement working out with dumbbells to now people are traveling to come work out with me, or people in this area are excited to show up and see me and to work out with me. Talk us through the community building behind that and how that evolution has been.
It's surreal. The fact that people will travel and spend money and time and investment just to hang out with us is something that I like, pinch me moment. But I think that it's rooted, like it doesn't necessarily trickle down from the bottom. It starts in the middle. And I have such a phenomenal team that reinforces that. So when I first started Lexi J Wellness, I was so invested in like, I want that person to feel like they're working out with a friend. I genuinely want to be your friend. So we have this Facebook group, and I always call it like the unicorn of the internet. The internet is like a scary, shitty place sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's one place that you can get unwavering support from complete strangers. Like if you want to brag about a milestone or whatever, you're absolutely going to have those people that are like cheering for you loud. And that's what that's the role I wanted to play. And I think that something that is incredibly underrated in maturity is that realizing that someone else's success does not take away from your own. So I dove into that at the start of Lexi J Wellness, and I was like, I want each of these people that works with us, like I want them to win so much. I want them to win almost as bad as they want to win themselves. And when I say win, like I want you to be a great mom. I want you to show up as the best nurse as possible, like fill in the blank, whatever roles you play. And I think that they see the way that I interact with them, and then it's horizontal. Like they are friends with each other. People will meet up from different states and like get Airbnbs for these events, which is sick. But yeah, the community is something incredibly special. And I think that that's why I'm like, when people ask what Lexi J Wellness is, and I say it's an online fitness business, I feel like that just diminishes it because it is so much more. And I think that them going through the similar experience and feeling like we're doing this together, that sense of camaraderie is rooted in the workouts, and then it just bleeds out from there. Yeah.
It's also for a greater purpose too. Like a lot of the events you do, going back to September on 9/11, you guys go to Arrowhead and walking up and down to remember all the first responders in 2001. So it's not just like, hey, I'm trying to make some quick cash, or I'm trying to like win these people over to do this thing. It's like, I want people to get better, but also if there's in alignment to serve other people or to bring awareness to something, like that is what you're dialed in on. And I respect that a ton, because there's some people that view it as just a business, where it's community building, bringing awareness, helping people get better, and seeing them win.
Yeah, to like peek behind the curtain, just to give full transparency, these events, so we've done 35 events, and typically like on a weekend like this, I just count this as one. So more than that, and they have hundreds of people come. We've actually only charged admission twice, and one of them, all the proceeds go to a charity, and I could talk about that, and the other one just covered the t-shirt. So this, like, the events themselves are not a moneymaker by any means. Like financially, Brett is our CFO. He's like, this doesn't make any sense. This does not pencil out.
Like, let's do it.
I always like present him a plan. I'm like, okay, now poke holes in it. But it is that thing that I just think that there's so much. People have really, really strong opinions about the fitness industry, and whether it's like rooted back from a poor experience you had with a high school coach, or, you know, a PE teacher that made you feel lesser than, or it's just the bullshit you see on social media that is so fake and curated, that my hope is that you'll give me an hour and a half of your time, come out to this event if you're local, and like just meet me. Let me talk to you, because I think that if I can get in front of you and I think we can create that relationship, I'm the same person that you see online, and I think that's really important, just to be consistent across every arena that you meet me in. I think that, you know, we talk about authenticity all the time, and I mentioned this earlier, is that I want to make sure that the person that you do the workout with, or you feel like you're doing the workout with, is the same person that if you bump into me at Target, or if you come to an event. And I think a lot of people have these preconceived notions that someone on social media would, like, it's very easy to show up for 30 seconds in a reel, and you can do a million takes and have execute it to perfection. But if you can talk to someone in real life, there's no faking that. So that's my goal with these events, is that, like, I want to get in front of you. I want to be able to create that relationship and just ensure that I want the best for you. So I think that it does start, it's so easy to see someone like myself. I think I can empathize with the fact that if you have 3 kids and you have 80 pounds to lose, you can look at me and be like, well, you have no clue what it feels like to be me. But I have a really strong why, I should say. So my dad was overweight my whole life. He is a firefighter, and which is an incredibly demanding job.
Yeah.
And to be overweight and unhealthy, that's a huge liability. But he had 4 heart attacks. I think the first one was when I was in elementary school, and he was like 36 or 38, which is a scary thing. Like, the guy that I look up to the most, laying in a hospital bed, completely helpless, is terrifying. And that happened, and it happened again, and it happened again, and it happened again. And I'm like, no one's going to survive 5 heart attacks. So eventually the other shoe is going to drop, and you're not going to make it. So I didn't have the guts or the confidence or the tools to communicate that well enough to him the way that I was feeling, or the way that I can talk to clients now. But because of this experience, I can do it with other people. So it had been an ongoing conversation that I just could not articulate. If I tried, I would cry, or I would just get so frustrated. So I was in college, mind you, his first heart attack was when I was in elementary school. So this had been a decade. And I was like, I'm just going to write him a letter. I'm going to say everything I need to say. That way, if number 5 comes and he dies, I'll at least be able to sleep well knowing that I tried. I said what I needed to say. And so I wrote this letter. I left it on his nightstand, and I drove back to school. And in the letter, I just said, I think that this life is one that, if you're satisfied with 50 years, that's the way you're living. But I'm not. That's unacceptable. And I said, I think it's selfish that, you are comfortable getting to meet your nieces and nephews or your grandkids from my siblings, but you aren't sticking around for me. You're not going to walk me down the aisle. I was like, that sucks. Selfishly, I need you to take care of yourself because I want you. I'm like, I am not okay with you living to 50. I need decades. And because that is such it's no longer about him. I made it selfishly about me. And I think that's what really rooted at him, because it was something that it was affecting me, and he was able to separate it from, you going to McDonald's twice a day, 3 times a day that's a you problem. But when you think about your kids picking up those habits, and you think about your kids that you can't play or you can't keep up with, then it's bigger than you. And that was really, I think, that what got through to him. So he gave me that letter back when he lost 100 pounds. And that's always something that I talk to my clients about. I may not be able to, relate to having those kids and being overweight and needing to make that change so desperately, having the health issues, but I can relate to seeing the person that I love more than anyone being in that spot and feeling helpless and worrying that my mom or dad was not going to be there. And that really hits home, especially when you think about you're looking up at, or a 2 or 3-year-old's looking up at you, and you're thinking about them handing you that letter.
Yeah. I love that story. It's so powerful. And I just have a lot of respect for you for having the courage to do that, because I know it's uncomfortable to say to someone hey, I want you to be better. And you think that they'll have resistance for whatever reason. And you went about it the best way possible. If you can't have that conversation face to face, let me just leave this with you. So I have my 2 cents out there. You throw in there, I want to see another World Series with you. These core memories that you just can't take away. And you want to experience for the full life. What was your relationship with him after that? Talk about the, when he read it and called you, how did things start to change? Yeah,
so that initial call was very emotional. He's a very tough guy. He's a challenger. If anyone listens or does the Enneagram, he's very assertive. But he just he kind of broke down to the fact that he was just scared. He was scared to fail, and he was worried that if he tried and he failed, then it would be embarrassing for us or for him. And it was almost that thing, if I don't try, then I won't fail. If I don't try, then it won't be embarrassing if I mess up, or you guys won't be let down because I didn't try. It gives you that insurance plan of well, I wasn't that serious about it anyway. So then if you are embarrassed, then, there's nothing lost. But if you wholeheartedly commit to something and then you do try and you do stumble, then you're worried that you're letting everyone else down. So I think that that's what people get stuck with a lot, I believe, is just they're worried to fail, and they're worried about perception because of failing. They don't have the foresight or the understanding that if by avoiding the attempt in itself, you're already failing. There's no shot.
Yeah. I see a common theme here in you of leading by example. Hey, it's not, I'm going to force you to do these things. I'm not going to force you to do the workout. I'm not going to force you to change your lifestyle, but I'm going to do these things and encourage you to come along with me. It's such a powerful thing today, because the book Go Giver by Bob Berg, it talks about you can't influence people by pushing them to do things. People resist. People will call you crazy. They'll yell at you. But if you pull them and say, hey, this is the life I'm living. Here's the changes that I've made. And I want you to come along because you'll experience X, Y, Z. Eventually they'll come along. Yeah. It's not like your dad probably didn't wake up the next day saying like, I'm going to go run a marathon. Like, I'm good. But it's like small changes over time. It makes all the difference.
Yep.
And it starts with that leadership from the front of, I'm going to take these actions and show you what's possible. And like, there is a better life. There is a healthier way to live. There is more, I mean, talk about not just fitness, but like, how do you show up for your family? How about work? How about grandkids? How about hobbies you have? It changes everything.
Yeah. I always talk about it because my parents were empty nesters for the very first time. Like, they got pregnant in high school and then they had 4 kids. So they parented for like 30 years. And when my sister was a senior in high school and my dad was still unhealthy, we're all like kind of looking side to side. We're like, they've never even been alone. We don't even know how they'll interact if they don't have us to, you know, chase us at sporting events and stuff. And that was kind of around that same transition time. And like, their relationship is so fun. Like, they're best friends. They flourished. And it was all just because he started taking care of himself. And I know, like, I could see the confidence change in him. He got a promotion at work, and now he is a reliable figure, like, in his fire department. And he plays and shoots hoops with my nieces and nephews. They genuinely do not recognize him in photos when they look at him. I got a better dad out of the deal. And it's just, I've seen 2 Super Bowls with him.
Yeah.
And it's just that mindset where I think, going back to, as a girl from a town of 400, thinking that you could do anything remarkable or make an impact at all, it seems unimaginable. So when you see someone change their life, and then it just doesn't stop with them, it's their spouse and their kids and their coworkers that are now impacted just because they went first. It kind of made it click in my brain where I was like, okay, well, maybe a girl from a town of 400 could make a difference if you just focus on one person at a time.
Yep, one person. It's a ripple effect. Like, what does that one person now do? You mentioned your dad, nieces and nephews and everyone around him, people at work. His changes now start to change people around him. You might meet someone tomorrow at the workout that now their life has changed and they're going to show up at work differently on Monday morning or at their gym. And you can never total up how many people you change. Like, you can't say, oh, I got this many views on Instagram, this many downloads on the podcast, or this many YouTube views. It's so much more than that, because it could be one person that goes and runs and changes 1 million people's lives. So
absolutely,
we all have people that inspire us from the top down, and then ourselves as well. Like, whether we show up in person or on social media, it trickles down from there too.
100%. Yeah.
Another thing, a trait I see out of you is perseverance. I want to talk about Phorm now. So Phorm, I love having this conversation too. So I'm in the Legionnaire program. I've been in RTA for almost a year. So like, I've been dialed in with what Andy's been doing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Great community, great company. And you wanted to apply. So the Legionnaire program is like Phorm's ambassadorship. You promote the products, you can get commission, you go to events, different things. So you apply for the first time, get denied, get denied, get denied. 3 times, correct?
3 times, yep.
Okay. So what made you keep going? Because now you're Phorm Athlete of the Year in 2023. So what happened in between there?
I applied because mind you, I had no sponsorships or anything. I'm early on in Lexi J Wellness, I had like 3,000 followers. So I built this following in the past 4-ish years. So it wasn't like I was like looking for a brand deal or anything, or I was hotly sought after, but I was a fan of the brand. I liked the product itself. Like, I tried a bunch of proteins, hated them, and this was one that I actually liked. But then I started diving more in, and I became obsessed with just like the culture and the community. And I felt like, I think that ambitious, like people that are dialed into the self-development world, but in a different sphere, whereas like you're in this gym, and I bet a lot of these people have very like-minded views.
Yeah.
But if you work in corporate America, or you work in, a dental office or whatever, you're not really surrounding yourself with people that have those same views, and it can kind of feel draining and isolating. So I was seeing this culture through social media, like them showing up, and I remember just like seeing myself in each of them, or like feeling like I wouldn't be such an outsider if I was around them. Like, I would probably, fit in, and it didn't feel like I was fitting in anywhere else. So I just loved the culture. I started listening to the podcast and felt like, well, it's kind of cool that, you know, the founder and the head of this brand actually stood for something. Like, they weren't dancing around. Like, they wholeheartedly believe in what they believe, and they'll tell you, where just a lot of other brands will be wishy-washy in order to appease both sides. And I just felt like there was a lot of conviction in that and something that I could respect about it. So I got denied, applied again 3 times. And I remember it was just like, it's not in the cards. And Brett, he always believed in me. He said something to the effect of like, well, one day they're going to wish they would have said yes. And I laughed. And I was like, that's absurd. Yeah. First Phorm doesn't know who the hell I am. There's no way. And then, so I started Lexi J Wellness. A year later, I had like my first anniversary event, and I wanted First Phorm there because, mind you, I'm like, this is the protein I use. Yeah. And so I reached out to a friend that was a Legionnaire and asked if she could like set up a booth, because I'm like, I'm not, I have no connection. So she called someone from HQ, and they came down to help her with the booth. And our first anniversary event, I think we had like, I don't know, we probably had like 100, 150 people come. And he came up to me and he's like, have you ever thought about like working with the brand? I'm like,
if only you knew.
I have, actually. You guys keep rejecting me. So I got on a call like that following week and became a Legionnaire. But it did give me so much more appreciation for the process and for the position I'm in now. Like, it is not one that I take for granted at all, because I had that that experience of like, oddly enough, it was like they were playing hard to get with me unknowingly. Like, they still did not know who I was at the time. But every time they rejected me, I was like, I just have to be better. I have to continue proving that I should be able to have that position. I should be able to be part of their brand, something that they're proud to represent. So now that I am like a larger part of the brand, that feels so special to know that I went through that and I did something to catch their eye, or at least feel like I would be a good representation.
Yeah, it's full circle for sure.
Yeah.
And you start as just a Legionnaire and ambassador for the program, and now one of the biggest athletes of the brand. What changed in between then? Was it just the social media? Was it showing up to events? How did you take that next step within the organization?
I think that the events catch the eye a lot, because it is really, really easy and really, really common to be in shape on the internet. Yeah. Like, everybody can put their own fitness Instagram or whatever, put that they're a certified personal trainer in their bio, and they're a dime a dozen. But to have belief in other people, or for people to have belief in you, and for them to, like I said, it's crazy that people would spend money and time to come hang out with me, to come do a workout. And that's not lost on me, and I don't think it's lost on them, that the community is the biggest thing. And for me to, like, their thing is real people, real results. So for me to be able to show, this is a mom of 3, and look at how her life has changed. Look at, she's just doing this simple stuff. And I think that like, our core values align so well, our strategies align so well. And that I think that through the events, just being able to show that these real people are, their lives are changing. They're getting those real results that we talk about. I think that's the biggest thing, because the Instagram, the social media is like a dime a dozen.
Yeah, 100%. Last year, getting Athlete of the Year with First Phorm, what was that moment like?
Oh my gosh. It was so, I think I blacked out. I really do. Because for the longest time, and mind you, I actually didn't know I was an athlete at this time.
Really?
Yeah. I thought I was a Legionnaire limbo thing, because I'm like, I get invited to certain things, but I never got confirmation that I was this title. Titles really don't matter at the end of the day, so I'm like, okay, cool. But I had it on my vision board for the longest time that Sal Frisella, who is now the CEO and president of First Phorm, that he would call me and he would say, Lexi, Sal Frisella here. Like, just in my head, I knew that would be the introduction. So I typed out, Lexi, Sal Frisella here, and it was printed out on my vision board. And I always thought that that's how it would be. And I was like, that it would be the most miraculous call ever. So at Summer Smash, which is like First Phorm's biggest event of the year, there's a few thousand people there. Sal Frisella is on stage, and he's, welcoming everyone, going through just like this very invigorating speech. And then he was like, we actually have, one more surprise thing. We typically do this award at the banquet. I'd never been invited to the banquet even, so that was like out of the cards for me. And he said that we're going to announce our Athlete of the Year. and this gigantic banner drops from the wall of this massive building. He says my name, and I don't remember processing it. I just remember getting pushed up on stage. Yeah, it was surreal. It was incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good for you.
Thank you.
What's next for you? So you've made a lot of progress up until now. Like, where do you see the next 5 years going with your brand, everything else you have going on?
I love the in-person events. So I want to push those more and do them just in spaces that we haven't necessarily. Like I said, I want to get out in front of people that I haven't got to meet. We have done so many in the Midwest. This is our first in Texas. But I think that it can kind of just give people a reinvigorated belief about fitness and humanity in general. Like, society now is so divisive. So to be able to bring together good people that, like, we're not all that different.
Yeah.
Like, we might not be voting for the same people, but we're not going to be at each other's throats. Look, we can get along, we can have fun, we can be in this community together. I think that's such a good reminder as well. So I would really love to do a tour, honestly.
Yeah.
But you mentioned we had the 9/11 stair climb. That was the first that we've done this year. We were able to raise $22,000 for a local charity.
That's incredible.
And like I said, my brother is also a firefighter, so it's one that's really close to home. And I'm excited to continue building that one throughout the years and make that an annual event, especially like as a lifelong Chiefs fan. That was pretty surreal.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm an Eagles fan, so.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's amazing. You have a lot going on. It's just, the accomplishments are incredible. I think it's just good encouragement for the audience of, you can really change your life in a short amount of time. And it takes a lot of determination and hard work, but like, whatever you want, you can go achieve. And I think the testament there is, like, put on the vision board, like, think about it. Like, what does that look like? What does it feel like? And you'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Make sure that your actions align with that vision board.
Absolutely. 100%. One thing I also admire about you is the mindset you have behind fitness. So Lexi J Wellness is not just working out. It's about holistic, like, I want you to be a better person. I want you to show up and have a better mindset. You post some reels about reading books. Like, what goes into the mindset of you? It's not just lifting weights, but showing up as a better person, leadership, accountability. Can you touch on that?
Yeah. So when we started Lexi J Wellness, it took me an embarrassing amount of time to name it, because there were people that I knew that it was like Lexi J Fitness, Lexi J Shred, Lexi J, like things like names like that, which I felt, even at the time, like during COVID, we're all driving ourselves crazy, and we just need to, like, feel better mentally. And I'm at a point where I'm in decent shape. So honestly, like, exercise is just as much mental maintenance as it is physical maintenance. And I'm such a huge believer that even if fitness, didn't give you the aesthetic results, I would still be a huge proponent of it because of what it does for your mental health and your energy and your mood and how you communicate. So that was a really, really important in naming Lexi J Wellness, and just ensuring that, we're not just going to get in shape. There have been times in my life when I've been in awesome shape, but I just haven't been well. Like, I haven't been mentally well. And I want to make sure that that's just as much of a priority, for my people, and that they know that it's a forefront. So it had to be communicated that way.
Yeah, I love that. What's been the biggest impact on you? You mentioned the book Outliers. Is there anything else, book, podcast, a mentor, that has shaped who you are today?
So I think that I talk about the domino effect all the time, so much so that I actually have it
love that.
Permanently inked on my arm. I read it. It was like my first ever self-development book, I think, and it was one that I got at Goodwill. If you ever want like a self-development book or devotionals, everybody gives them away. They're always at thrift stores. So I just picked that one up, and it's by Gary Keller. It's called The One Thing, and in that book, he literally, it's like a drawn out graphic, and it shows if you knocked over one domino, a 2-inch domino, it would knock over a 4-inch domino, and that would have enough momentum to knock over an 8, and then it would continue doubling just because you're picking up so much momentum. And similar to what I said earlier, just in kind of having that realization that like changing one life doesn't just stop with that, it changes everyone around them. And in that doubter's mindset, it gave me that belief that if I just focus on the task at hand and the one person in front of me, that it wouldn't just stop with them. And it made those gigantic dreams that you think about in your head, but you don't really say out loud because you're worried that you'd get laughed out of the room, that it made it seem more manageable. Like if I just show up and I take care of those like seemingly insignificant things from day to day, they're going to add up because they're building that momentum, and you don't see it from one day to the next, but that's how those overnight successes are built in the matter of years. So
Absolutely.
seeing that graphic, I don't even really remember. I can't vouch to the quality of the book overall, but that one completely altered the trajectory of my life.
What would you say to someone who you explain the domino effect to them and like how the momentum can be picked up, but they're struggling to push the first domino? They're struggling to push the rock to even get it going. What advice do you have for them to start catching that momentum and take the first step?
Oftentimes, if we're having that conversation, it's because you've hit a spot where you're so uncomfortable or you're so unhappy and you're so unhappy with where you are, but you're like, okay, once I get motivated, then it's game time. Then it's on. And I think that people need to realize that the time will pass regardless. And, your speed doesn't matter nearly as much as your direction. So I think that you wait until life settles down, until kids are in school, until X, Y, and Z for that perfect opportunity, when that time that you're waiting is just, it's potential that you're missing. And even if you're just taking those small steps, you don't have to be 100% across the board. But if you show up and you start taking those steps in that direction that you're wanting to head, then you're going to make progress. So I think that it seems so simple. It really, and like logical when you're on this side of things, but you're in that headspace and you're just like looking for a quick fix. You're looking for the answer that's going to solve things overnight. And you have to understand, like, you're wasting time right now. Like, you just have to start.
Yeah. I love that. One thing about that is like going in the right direction as well. So it's one thing to start to catch momentum and take action, but like, what if it's for the wrong reason, or what if for the wrong purpose? You're someone who changed careers because you wanted to pursue fitness and wellness. Going on the theme of advice right now, like, what about someone who they think they're taking action and doing the right things, but they might be going north and they're supposed to go east?
I would be curious for more context as far as like, what is the end goal? Where, and what is causing you to make those changes to begin with? Because people think that when your work is something that you're passionate about, that it's going to alleviate all of those stressors that work brings. And there are days when, my job feels like work also. I love my job, and like, I think it's the coolest thing ever. I always say that if you would tell 8-year-old Lexi that asks for ankle weights from Santa Claus, that she would like be over the moon to do what I do. But you also have to remember it is a job at the end of the day, and there's going to be days that you don't want to do it. So understanding like the reality of changing that trajectory and knowing that it's still going to be work, but it's going to be work that's worthwhile this time, at least in my case. But I think that if you're heading in a direction or if you're putting in work and you're getting outcomes that you don't expect, then you have to change the inputs.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you think about legacy often, like what you want to leave on the world or people around you?
I do sometimes, and then I listen to like Alex Hormozy, and he's like, everyone dies and you don't remember anything from 2 generations ago, so who cares? Yeah, in the short term, yes. And then if I hear content like that, I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter. But you're going to leave a reputation or an impression on the people that you do have contact with right now. So if people generations from now don't know me, that's okay. But I'd like to leave the best one I can on the people that do have interactions with me.
Yeah, that's all you can control too.
Right. Yeah.
It's just about showing up as yourself in the moment. You mentioned previously, like, you want people who see you online to be the same, or to see the same person they see in person, right? It's like you can control how you show up and your mood and your energy in that moment. That is going to directly impact people. You can't control what someone listening to this is going to do in an hour, but you can control, hey, this is what I talked about in this podcast. I hope it inspires someone, and leave it at that. And like, that's a controllable, just again, going back to leading by example too. Yeah.
There's so many variables when it comes to making an impression or people's perception of you. And like I said, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to curate yourself to a point to appease everybody, you're just diluting your quality, and it's exhausting. So I think that, like I said, the people that I work with are the ones that, or the people that mesh well with me are the ones that need my help. And if we don't mesh well, I just hope to God there's somebody that meshes well with you that can help you also. That's the end goal.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be everyone's fit, but at the end of the day, I want you to be healthier for your kids, whether it's with me or somebody else.
Absolutely. Getting to the theme of this podcast, defining success.
I've been nervous about this.
When you think about success, how do you define it?
I think that there is a caveat to put at, because I think that taking out like basic needs, making that the assumption that basic needs are taken care of, that you live a life that you feel is purposeful and that you execute on your God-given gifts. I think, as cheesy as it sounds, like I feel like I am doing what God put me on earth to do.
Yeah.
And I think that that makes me successful. And the, like, any sort of accolades or things that get charted on there is just kind of icing on the cake. I think that living in a way that is fulfilling to you and provides value to other people, just be useful. I think that makes me successful right now.
That's so good. And I like how it's customizable for each person. Everybody has a different God-given gift. Everybody has different passions or purposes. It's not, hey, you have to go be a fitness influencer and run a brand and run a business to be successful. No, it looks different for so many people. There could be someone listening to this that was a dental hygienist or is a dental hygienist, that's their path to success. That's their passion, their purpose. So I admire that answer, because everybody has your unique ability.
Yeah. And as you're doing those things that, like, if you're listening to this podcast and you're driving a truck and that, like, this is what you're doing right now, but you're not feeling fulfilled, you could also be the person that, you know, stops in at that truck stop and you have a way to communicate with the cashier that just like brightens their day.
Yep.
Or you're their spark, or, you know, you just have a way that makes people feel special. And I think that those intangible things that the resume just doesn't check, those are so valuable, and those are things that I will remember about a person. So yeah, I think that it's often like you think about it resume wise, but also I know people that I couldn't tell you what they do for a living, but I could tell you how leaving a conversation makes me feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when we were emailing, I said that a lot of this podcast vision came from people viewing success as very monetary and flashy and status. One thing from your answer, there was nothing monetary about it. There was nothing of like, I want this amount of followers. I want this outfit, this car. Looking back to the letter you wrote to your dad, it wasn't, I want you to live longer because I want you to make more money and let's go on a trip or something. It's no, I want experience with you. I want you to be there for my grandkids. I want or for my kids, I want you to be there for the wedding, the World Series. Can you touch on how you view that sense? Like, obviously, like, people are going to be motivated by money. It changes people's lives, but it's not everything. So I want to hear your take on that.
And Brett is he's very, very like financially oriented. He's extremely smart when it comes to that. So he manages like our finances and things like that. So we may have different answers to this if you were to ask him. I'm a big believer that it's going to take care of itself. And maybe that's like a naive, gilded view of it. But I truly do think that if you put in the work required and you do it in an honest way, I think that my basic needs are going to be taken care of and everything else on that is on top of it. But also as a business owner now that has 5 people, that they have families that also they are relying on Lexi J Wellness to survive and to thrive, to put money or to put, food on the table for their family. That is the biggest driver in terms of money for me, is that I have an awareness that they have kids and they have responsibilities and they have bills to pay, that it's like they're somewhat insulated to it because of Lexi J Wellness. And I have to, that is the biggest driver for me. It's no longer like, I have a house, I have clothes, I have running water and clean food and all that stuff. But to know that if Lexi J Wellness stops, they are out of a job, that is like a punch in the gut. Yeah. So that's the biggest driver right now.
That's good. Very powerful. What is something you believe in that most people disagree with?
This was tough. I considered answering something that I don't believe in that would be really good clickbait for you. Like a nice clip to put on Instagram and be like, oh my gosh, cancel Lexi. Present company excluded, I feel like most people are not as driven. So I'm sure that most people would disagree with this. But I think that doing the hard things, purposefully putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, and uncomfortable situations, and like going to war is such a serious way to put it. But like going to war in your mind and going to, put yourself through physical discomfort. I think that is one of the biggest forms of self-care possible.
I love that. I was just talking to one of our members of the gym here like last week about that topic, and he was like, dude, it's sad your generation is so messed up because like everybody's just doing the bare minimum or even below that. So he's like, anything a little bit above the bare minimum, you're gonna be like crushing it.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because like people used to be like fighting tooth and nail for everything they have, and now it's like people are lazy, they're unmotivated, they don't have that purpose or drive, and it's sad to see.
Yeah, it's so sad. And like from an actual health stance, I don't care what you look like. I don't care if your like Instagram bikini picture gets 1 million views. But like our standards of health have dropped so low. I listened to something, it was like when JFK was president, there was a regimented, I can't even remember. It was like every high school male should be able to run a mile in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. They should all be able to do 30 push-ups, which that's elite. You would be at the top of your class right now, like the average high school boy or, just anyone. And that used to be the norm. That was the standard. And I was like, dang, that's so disappointing, just how much our physical standards and in turn our health, like our longevity, our health span. So
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, look at RFK Jr. now, like making the whole move of make America healthy again.
Yeah.
And it's not even like a political statement. It's like, we are so messed up as a society. Like the companies you're supposed to rely on for your groceries are making you unhealthy. The norms of society are not pushing you into the gym or pushing you to go walk outside. It's sit on the couch, watch Netflix, eat this food. And people are like dying because of it. Like legitimately, like life expectancy is going down. People are just racking up these diseases way sooner than they should because they're just not taking care of themselves, and it's not being talked about enough.
Yeah, it's extremely disappointing. It's scary. It's really scary.
Yeah. Last question for you. So for someone who is looking for advice, they want to be successful, they don't know how to get there, they're looking for some recommendations, what would you leave them with?
I think that, to go back to what I said earlier, your direction mattering more than your speed, to get started sooner than you think you should, that perfectly executed, perfectly drawn out plan you have on your desk that's not quite yet, like you just keep tweaking it, you have to act. Because, executing at B- is way better than sitting on your ass with a perfect plan and sitting, on your desk and not doing anything. So start before you're ready, start before the circumstances are perfect, and just start. Just get going, one foot in front of the other.
I love that. So good. This has been amazing. I really appreciate you joining. I'm excited for tonight, going for a ruck, seeing everything you have going on in Austin. Just a quick, like for the audience, I wrote out a list a few months ago of like, what are some dream guests for the podcast? And you were on there. So like, this is a very special moment.
No way.
Yeah. And it's cool too, because this started as an Instagram DM months ago.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're here. So I greatly appreciate you taking the time and just trusting the vision. So.
That is extremely flattering. Thank you. This has been awesome.
Good. Thank you. Well, keep crushing it. Can you plug anything, social media that you want the audience to be directed to?
Yeah. On Instagram, I am Lexi J Wellness. And then my website is lexijwellness.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Lexi.
Thank you so much.